Be limitless with Pinellas County Schools. To discover more about our magnet programs and events, go to pcsb.org/DAP.
Welcome. My name is Ellen Truskowski, and I am the Director of Student Assignment. I'm so happy you joined us tonight. Tonight we're going to basically kind of give you a little overview of the DAP process and kind of walk you through the different steps. It could be a little overwhelming with 82 different programs, so we're going to go a little bit into what the difference is, how it works, my recommendations if you are new to DAP on the best steps to approach the different fairs and different events we have, and how to try to make it a little bit less overwhelming for you. So you might hear me call them DAP throughout the night, and it's just our abbreviation for District Application Programs. And what it means is those are basically our magnet and fundamental programs. We are proud to offer this year 82 different magnet and fundamental programs. And what it means is, by the name, District Application Programs, is that you have to do a separate application to attend. There's a randomized selection process, and then you also would have to accept an offer to be able to attend one of those different programs. Magnet programs are ones that have a specialized theme. So it could be a specific area of interest, or it might be a career theme. So we have dual language magnet programs, gifted studies magnet programs, international baccalaureate, STEAM, STEM, leadership, variety. And then that theme is interwoven in the different classes. So if you're at a performing arts school, in your math and science classes, you might be doing more acting out or role playing or introducing some of the different arts as part of the learning process. If you're at a STEAM school, when you're doing a reading story or ELA, you may see a STEAM-based activity, hands-on design cycle added in. So the idea of the magnet school, either career or a special interest, and that theme is everywhere on that campus. Same curriculum gets taught as every other school, but that innovative strategies and that magnet theme is what really makes it a little bit different. So the next type of programs I wanted to talk about and also have to do with our DAP for both magnet and fundamental is that we have two different types. We have whole school programs, which it's school-wide. Every single person at that school has to apply to attend. Osceola Fundamental High School is one of those. Perkins Elementary School, Sanderland. So several of those are school-wide program. And then we have what we call program within a school. So some of our centers for gifted studies, that center of gifted study is located within a neighborhood or zone school. Some programs have application areas, some have transportation areas. Our website, www.pcsb.org/DAP, will help show you what the different application areas are, as well as transportation areas. Magnet programs also provide arterial transportation. And we'll go a little bit more on the Q&A part. Transportation is provided, but it tends to be more along the main roads or lines, and then the stops are a little bit more limited than the regular transportation. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about fundamental programs. So these programs have a family-oriented, very structured environment and kind of a back-to-basics approach. So there's a big parent-teacher-student commitment, which you'll find in our magnet schools as well. And they have different requirements. So there's daily homework requirements, dress code requirements, parent attendance at either PTSA meetings or SAC meetings. Transportation is also not provided for fundamental programs that hold back to basics approach. We do provide transportation at the high school level, as well as at Thorogood Marshall, because it also has a magnet program there. So it'd be kind of hard to offer transportation for some of those students, but not all. One of the questions we get asked a lot is about our DAP entrance criteria. And so with the entrance criteria, we do not have a whole lot of programs that have entrance criteria, but we do have a few. The Centers for Gifted Studies, you need to have either been eligible for gifted services if you are applying for first grade, or you need to have a current or active educational plan. The Centers for Literacy Innovation, which are at Elisa Nelson and Midtown Academy, do require a screening process because that program's designed for students with specific reading pattern or who struggle with specific reading patterns. Gibbs PCCA has an audition or an interview process that one has to do. And the high school ACE and IB programs do have some FSA test score as well as grades and an Algebra 1 requirement due to the rigorous nature of those programs. So as I said in the beginning, it could be a very overwhelming process. One of the first steps we take is start with your zone school. A lot of times people don't realize what your zone school has to offer. If you're one of the families that took us up on that in the neighborhood event that happened last week, you got to be familiar. All your neighborhood schools or zone schools will offer tours. If you visit their websites, they'll give you a little bit more information and kind of see what your zone school has. Your zone school may meet every single need. If not, or your child has a specialized interest, that's when you start to research some of those different options. In April, we'll talk a little bit more about something called special assignment requests, but today we're really going to focus on DAP. And the first thing I can say is research your options. So starting this week and into next week, every pre-K, 5th grade, and 8th grader in the county is going to get a hard copy of our DAP guide. If you go to our website, pcsb.org/DAP, you can get a digital copy of this guide. This has a basic overview, general description of all 82 of our different programs. You can see application areas, you can get information on which ones have transportation. It has some FAQs and also provide all those important dates such as the DAP fairs and when the application period is and whatnot, but that's all in that guide. You can also visit the school's websites. The guide does provide websites. And then if you're able to, I would recommend coming to one of our DAP fairs. If you think of the fair as kind of a trade show, every single school is going to have a booth. Every single school is going to have school representatives and handouts about the program as well as their discovery night. So when you walk in, it could be a little overwhelming, but don't worry. We're going to give you some tips on how to make it a little bit less overwhelming. The fair is designed to kind of give you a broad overview of all your different choices. So you have 82 different programs total. We try to keep the high school programs together and then the elementary and middle school programs. As I said, every school is going to have a booth. You're just going to walk around. You'll be able to talk to the principal, the coordinator, some of the teachers. Some schools will even bring parents or students that you can talk to. You can attend any of the fairs and get more information. Then you're going to have some time to be able to really start to look at that information that you got from those fairs. When you start to narrow down the advances, then we're going to talk about something for Discovery Nights. Our first fair starts next week. It's next Tuesday, the 18th, and it is at Dunedin High School. We have a list, and it's also on our website, of which schools will be in attendance. The All-County Fair is held at Largo High. It's 9 to 11:30 on the October 22nd. All the programs will be there. The elementary and middle schools will be in the gym, and the high schools will be in the media center and cafeteria area there. And then we have a South County Fair, which is 6 to 7:30 at Boca Ciega High. And we have a list. So South County is going to basically have our South County programs with some of our countywide programs there. Whichever one you can go to, you'll get information. You'll be able to start to really narrow down and see what is it that you would like. And then we have a variety of opportunities or different ways that you could start to explore those programs a little bit more in depth. We're going to talk about something called Discovery Nights, the campus tours, and the shadow experiences. So a Discovery Night, and we have on our website a list of all the different programs and their Discovery Nights, gives you a little bit more in depth. So you're at that fair and you're getting all the information from all the schools. But a Discovery Night, you're getting to go at the school. So you're going to see the campus. You're going to meet the teachers. You're going to get an overview about what the program looks like, what it feels like. You're going to get a campus tour. And then you might get to participate in some of the different activities so you have a gooder or better idea of what that program is all about. You can attend as many different Discovery Nights as you would like. If you look at your Peach Jar flyers, we also posted those a while ago, so they are still in there. And as I mentioned on our website, we have information on all the different programs. The other option, if you're not able to do the Discovery Night, are campus tours and shadowing opportunities. And I want to start by saying not all schools offer shadowing opportunities. Typically high schools and a few middle schools. The tours, if you go to the school's website, they're going to let you know. Most will have some kind of sign up or a person to contact to set that up. We try to do those during the day so you get a feel of what the campus culture and climate is like, as well as getting to see how the teachers are interacting with students. If you can't make it during the day, just reach out to the school. Most will be accommodating or attend one of the Discovery Nights. For those high school students and some middle schools, we also offer shadowing opportunities. You really need to go to that school's website to be able to get a little bit more information on when they're being offered. Usually a limited number of days. Middle school students are, can attend 1 to up to 4 at different schools. Those are the biggies on how to start to narrow down the program that you want to go to or you want to take. There's a couple more steps that you could do ahead of time before January 10th that are going to make it a lot easier for you when you go to apply. If you do not have a parent account, you want to get one. And it's no problem if you are a private school parent, a charter school parent, or a PCSB student. If you have a parent of a current student, you should have a parent account. That's what's going to take you to your porthole. It's where you uploaded your digital forms or electronic forms this year. If you do not have one, it's pretty easy to get one. You just have to bring a photo ID to any PCS school in the district and ask for one. They'll need to verify who you are, and then they'll give you a username and temporary password. They'll also give you a link to where you can go and set up a password, which might be a little bit easier for you to remember. And I do recommend taking that step. If you do go in and set that account up and change the password and answer a few security questions, if you do forget that password, you'll be able to change it yourself instead of having to wait till school's open and bringing that photo ID in to get that reset. Once you have that parent ID, you're going to be good to go. So our initial application period is January 10th through the 20th, and it closes at 5 p.m. on the 20th. And that is so that if you do run into trouble, people in my office are going to be there to be able to help and assist you get that application in. To apply, you just go to reservation.pcsb.org. We have 2 different application periods. We have the initial application period, and then we have a late application period. If you are hoping to get into one of the more popular programs, you definitely do not want to miss that initial application period. What will happen is the randomized selection will occur, and then anyone who does not get a seat is put on a wait list. When you apply during the late application period, you will end up going to the bottom of that wait list. So it really is advantageous to sign up during that period. I'm not going to go into a lot about the application period because on January 9th, we're going to be taking you through the application process where you can see step by step how to apply, and then also kind of go over some of those more troublesome areas and help you troubleshoot so you know what to do when you do make that application. But I want to go over a couple basics. You can apply for up to 5 different programs. Your first choice would be ranked number 1, and your last choice would be ranked number 5. Priorities. And I'm sure if you've never applied, you may have heard people talk about priorities. We do have different types of priorities, but they only apply to your number 1 ranked choice. So if you have a sibling, if you're claiming feeder pattern, military priority, it only will apply to that program that you put as number 1. And that's going to be on the application. When we do the next Facebook Live event, we will go all over that as well. So as I just mentioned, January 9th at 5:30, we'll be walking you through that application period. So we will have the links up ahead of time, and we will go through, we'll also have the Q&A. I'll go more in depth at that time as far as what the difference in priorities are, how the feeder pattern works, how proximity priority works. I'll be glad to answer any of those questions in the Q&A section of tonight, but we will go more in depth when it gets closer to that time. I just want to, before we go into the Q&A, I want to go over a couple of the different important dates to have you mark your calendar. Our DAP fairs are coming up next week. First one starts on the 18th at Dunedin, then we have the 22nd at Largo High, and ending on the 27th at Boca Ciega. Discovery Nights, excuse me, will start as soon as the first fair is over and will continue through January. To apply, it's going to be January 10th through 5 p.m. on the 20th. Then there is the acceptance period where February 7th through 18th, you'll be able to go in, check on the status of that application, and then respond if you want to accept a program or if you choose to remain on a wait list. We will also have another Facebook Live event at that time so that you're fully prepared and know what to expect when it comes time for the acceptance period. Here are those dates written a little bit differently. There is something called a newly invited sibling request and appeals week. That is when, if you have two siblings, one gets in and one doesn't, we do have a week set aside where you can contact the school and make the request for that newly invited sibling. And then we also have a late application period. So the late application period will open up on March 21st.
All right, Ellen, we do have some questions, so we'll get right into it. If you get into a DAP school for elementary, do you need to go through the lottery again for middle school?
So yes. Once you're in a program, you're there. So let's say you get an invite in kindergarten, you won't need to reapply for first grade, second grade. So once you're in, you don't need to reapply until you get to that highest grade level. So if you were in elementary, for the example you used, and then you're going to middle school, you want to make sure that you apply for the middle school seat. If you do not, if you're at a school that would have a feeder pattern, you would not get that feeder pattern priority. So you definitely will need to apply at the different grade levels. So elementary, middle, and then high. But once you get into a program, there's no need to apply because you'll be into the highest grade.
My student is currently in a homeschool program taking classes with Florida Virtual School. Her intention is to enroll as a freshman at PCSB school for the 23-24 school year. Can she apply for a program?
Yes. So anyone can apply at the reservation.pcsb.org as long as you have a Pinellas County address. If you are from a different county, you can still apply, but it would be called through something called a special attendance permit. You would just apply, make sure you get, if you're homeschool, make sure you get that parent account, so you'll need that to apply. Then you go on and make the application. You will remain a homeschool student until you make the acceptance and you go in and register. So you can change your mind afterwards, but once you register, then you would become an official student at that program.
Is it confirmed that there will be an IP middle years program coming to Safety Harbor Middle?
Great question. So we are very excited. We have 2 new programs this year, and they're going to be IB candidate schools, which means they are on the route or journey to become an IB school. We have McMullen Booth, which will be pursuing the IB PYP or primary years program, and then Safety Harbor will be the North County IB middle school or middle years program. I do want to preference it in case we have any of our Mildred Helms or Largo middle families on board. You are going to be able to remain at the program with transportation through the highest grade level. So just because those 2 programs are now becoming mid-county only, you will be allowed to remain with transportation, so we're not interrupting your child's education. But our newest programs, and we're very excited to bring a fully North County aligned IB program.
All right, this is a long question. Here we go. For kindergartners who want to enter gifted programs at Elise Nelson, is only the IQ report and psych evaluation needed to pre-qualify? The procedures handbook says this is for kindergartner entering first grade, and that for grades 2 through 5, you need an EP plan in place. Wanted to confirm that EP plan does not need to be in place if you're entering first grade at Elise Nelson gifted programs. Can you confirm this info provided from the procedures manual?
So an educational plan is equivalent of an IEP with students with exceptional needs. And it's usually formed once a student accepts or the parent has an initial meeting and comes up with goals for the program. Typically during kindergarten is the first year or second year, first year where people start to get screened if they think their children are gifted. So the likelihood of having an EP program is not really there for first grade. The best resource, if you go to pcsb.org/gifted, their office will give you the exact answers whatsoever. But typically going into first grade, we're looking to see if they have the eligibility. So they've been screened and they've been determined to be eligible. After that, they are looking for an educational plan or an EP.
My child goes to Elise Nelson, which feeds to Dunedin Gifted Middle School. If we choose another program as our first choice, do they lose out on their seat at their feeder school?
They will lose the feeder pattern priority, which is almost a guarantee that they would get in. So let's say you're at Elisa Nelson Elementary School and you put Eastlake Middle School as number 1 and Dunedin as number 2. You would lose that guaranteed or feeder pattern seat at Dunedin. If you remember back to the slide when I was talking about rankings, the priorities only go to the top selected choice. So if you really want that feeder pattern priority for Dunedin needs to be your number 1 choice.
Can a student with an IEP apply for a DAP program?
Yes. So any student can apply. My department and the schools do work closely with the ESE department to make sure that we are able to accommodate the different requests. But anyone can apply. Not all programs offer all services, and that would be a discussion that you would want to have when you're doing the discovery nights or at the fairs, but anyone can apply.
We have twins. If one gets into one of the programs and the other does not, is there an exception for the second child? Is it difficult for twins to earn a spot at the same time?
So this is where I'm going to have a couple multiple part answer for this one. If you put the same program as number 1, so both of those twins apply for the same program and they're both ranked number 1, that's when that newly invited sibling priority week comes into play. So if one gets in and one doesn't, you just need to call the coordinator, and what they'll do is they will apply or check off, verify that claim of the sibling priority, which will raise the other student higher up on the wait list. Depending on if everybody accepted for the seats applied, there may not be a seat right away, but it does give you a much better position to be able to get the second child in. What I'm going to caution you about, and what we have happen every single year, is a lot of parents try not to spread their chances or opportunities. So they might put Pasadena Fundamental as number 1 and Lakeview Fundamental as number 1 for their other child. And then they'll call one will get in and one doesn't, and they want that newly invited sibling priority, but because the same program was not marked as number 1, they would not get that program.
Do you have to apply to the school you are zoned for?
Some application programs have application areas. On the back page of the DAP guide, kind of breaks it down to what those application areas are. The program's the same in 3 different areas. So for example, the Center of Gifted Studies, we've got Elisa Nelson, Ridgecrest, and Midtown Academy. We have a North County Center for Wellness and Medical Professions at Palm Harbor University, and then one at Boca Ciega in South County. When we have the similar program in multiple parts of the county, culinary, ACE, IB, we have application areas. You will be required to apply for the application area where your address is based. So if you live in Palm Harbor and want to attend Largo IB, you're not going to be able to because where your address is zoned for is the North County School. So depending on if the program has an application area, not all do, but if it is a program that has an application area, you will not be able to apply. They'll look grayed out for those programs that you're not able to apply for.
Is there a way to check if I already have a parent portal?
The easiest way would be to go to reservation.pcsb.org and try to sign in. If you get an error message, you can email a copy of your driver's license or valid photo ID to studentassignment@pcsb.org, or just take it to any school. If you have not used it within the past year, it gets archived. So it may just be something that if you have one and haven't used it for a while, you just need to get the password reset.
What is the likelihood of getting into my first choice for high school magnet? Is it solely lottery, or what other items are used to determine who gets accepted?
So by school board policy, we do have some priorities. So there's something called feeder pattern priorities, which apply only to the high school fundamental programs. So if you are in a high school, middle school program, you could put a feeder pattern priority, which would be your #1 ranked choice. No other high school program has a feeder pattern priority, but there are some other priorities that would apply. The next one is sibling. And this means that you would have to have a sibling who is at the program and will be at the program at the same time. So if your one child is a current 8th grader, your other child is a 12th grader, you're not going to get the sibling priority because next year your 12th grader will be in a career or college, and your 8th grader would be at the program alone. So both children have to be at the program at the same time. So the sibling priority applies. There is something called proximity priority, and this is a little complicated. And there's staff priority. So if you are a full-time staff member at the school, you get a staff priority. For example, I'm a district employee, so I work out of the administration building. So if I had a child, I could not use that staff. I would have to work at that school. Staff priorities won't apply to me. You have to be working at that program to be able to get that priority. There is a percentage with the proximity priority, and we use something called Manhattan distance miles and formula. So there is a formula out there called the Manhattan distance formula, and it basically will check the distance between two different points. In Pinellas County Schools, every address is assigned a latitude and longitude number, and we use the Pinellas County Tax Appraiser's property address to get that calculation. So there's a longitude and latitude number. The Manhattan distance priority will take the measurement between the school's latitude and longitude and your address's latitude and longitude. After feeder patterns, staff priorities are given, and sibling, the remaining percentage of seats that are available, there's a certain percentage. So most DAP programs have 20%. We do have a few that are 50%. Tarpon Springs Fundamental, Eastlake Middle School have 50, and Midtown Academy have a 50%. So for example, if you had 132 seats, 32 seats were given towards priority, sibling, and staff. That means we have 100 seats remaining. At most DAP schools, that means 20% or 20 of those seats would go to the smallest distances from that Manhattan distance formula. It's not a radius, it's not a set mile, it all depends on how many seats are available. It's very hard, and we can't give an answer because until you're actually after the application period and we know how many people applied and we verify the sibling, we verify the staff priorities to know how many of those seats are going to be available. So a lot of times we'll get questions going, what are the chances, how many people do you think? Until the actual application period, it's very hard for us to know or be able to give any kind of guidance because we just don't know how many siblings are going to be applying. We don't know who's going to apply to be able to do the proximity. So it does provide a little bit of anxiousness with that.
To confirm, if you're in a feeder middle school, you still have to apply to the feeder high school? Aren't you guaranteed a seat?
You're only guaranteed it if you apply. You have to apply. And every year, especially with Osceola Fundamental, with no matter how many times we've tried to advertise it, send emails and phone calls, we always will have people who forget to apply and they lose that application, they lose that feeder pattern. So if you are in 5th grade, an 8th grader, you have to apply for that feeder pattern school or else that priority is not guaranteed.
For kindergartners, would you recommend taking them to the Discovery Nights, or is this a parents-only thing?
Definitely designed for everyone in the family. So you can definitely bring your children there. They can get a chance to kind of meet their teachers. They can experience a couple of different activities. A lot of the programs will have some hands-on activities. So you can get a better feel of the types of activities or things that they're going to be doing or can participate in. It's definitely designed for the whole family, not just the parents.
If we get a seat in one of those programs, can we keep the seat and still apply for a special assignment school to see if we get into one of those?
Yes. So for those who are unfamiliar what a special assignment request is, there is another opportunity that Pinellas County Schools offer as part of our open enrollment plan. And that means that we do allow people to apply to attend to a school that's not their zone school. So by all means, you can apply for a DAP program and accept it, and then if you still choose a different option with the SAR, you can apply for an SAR. So let's say you get a seat at East Lakes High School's engineering program, but you really want to go to Palm Harbor's zoned side. You can apply for an SAR for Palm Harbor. If there are seats available, and if there's seats available, it's still a randomized selection, but you can accept it. Just one word of precaution, SARs overseed or succeed. A lot of times people will get a late offer for a DAP program, so when they apply for the SAR, they're not in a magnet program, but a seat will become available and they'll accept that magnet program after the fact or a fundamental program after they applied for an SAR. SARs are an automatic grant. If there's seats available, they're granted, which means you might lose your fundamental or magnet school. My office tries to reach out and contact those families to say, like, do you really want to accept this? Because you would be giving up your seat at the DAP program. So yes, you can apply, but just be careful. If you do get that magnet program and that's what you want, make sure that you call the student assignment office at 588-6210 and let us know that you want us to take off that application for the special assignment request.
Is the Hollins-Cambridge program all or nothing, or can a student take some of those classes a la carte, like AP? Is it possible to be in ACE and Cambridge full-time at Hollins, or is that double dipping? Is Cambridge comparable to IB as far as being recognized by top colleges?
So yes, Cambridge and IB have similar programs. If you take the classes and pass them all, you can potentially leave high school with the equivalent of an associate's degree. Most colleges in the world will recognize both Cambridge and IB. There are a lot of advantages to Cambridge versus IB. Both are very good programs. One of the main differences at the high school level, Cambridge gives a little bit more flexibility in the types of classes you have. So there's multiple classes that meet that Cambridge criteria, whereas the IB is a little bit more structured on the class piece. Both are rigorous, both are gonna get you prepared for a college-going culture, and you could leave both programs with the same amount of college credits if you successfully pass those classes.
Can you please explain more about the shadowing process? Who is allowed to shadow?
So if you are an 8th grader going into high school, you are allowed to shadow one of the high school programs. Most of the high school programs, if you go to their websites and you look, one of the drop-down links will say programs. Most of them will list their magnet programs under that list, and there's usually either a separate drop-down tag that'll say shadow opportunities or shadow days, or it might be in with the magnet program. Most high schools will designate 3 or 4 different days throughout the year, and it's almost like a field trip. There might be a form that you'll have to sign off on. You would bring your 8th grade student to the high school, and then they'd be paired up with a high school student and get to attend class with them. So they'll get to see the teachers in action, they'll get to see how the kids are reacting and kind of get a feel of, is this the right fit? Do I think I would feel like I belong here? So the different high school programs offer that, and they'll offer that for both Pinellas County students or private school students with that. But just check out those high school websites because they'll have them listed as far as when the days are. There are a few middle schools, not a lot, that offer that opportunity. So you'd have to look at their websites as well. It's not as common a practice at middle schools as it is for high schools.
What happens if I don't get into any of our top 5 choices? Also, what is the formula for getting selected in the lottery?
It is literally a randomized process. So every application that comes in receives a randomized number. Those priorities provide kind of a weight. So if it is a feeder pattern, those students kind of rise to the top and are the first that are selected. If it's a sibling, so those priorities kind of get pulled first with that randomized computer. So it's not a set algorithm or formula, it's more of a randomized computer process. I will tell you that the best time to enter magnet school or a fundamental school is the entry-level year. You will hear a lot of parents talk about that they think it's fixed and they've applied for 5 years in a row and they haven't gotten in. That's because most of the only available seats are that entry grade level. So kindergarten, there's a new bunch of kindergarten every year. So the easiest grade level to get into any of our programs in elementary school is kindergarten. Once you're in a program, if you remember from when I was talking earlier, you don't need to reapply. So all those students will then move up to 1st grade. So as long as none of those students leave, there are no available seats in 1st grade. And it continues, it works its way out. There is a little bit of an exception for all but 2 of our programs in that in 4th grade, the teacher-student ratio increases. So because the number of students in a class goes from 18 to 22, a lot of our elementary school programs are then able to offer more seats in 4th grade. So typically you'll see in elementary school us offer kindergarten and 4th grade seats. Middle school, easiest year is 6th grade. Same thing with high school, 9th grade, that entry-level year when there are no students. There are occasionally some openings here and there, but most seats are those entry level, and then as seats become available on the other grade levels, when you do make that application, they'll be on a wait list, and then you'll be able to go in and check that wait list. When you have those top 5 choices, you will be given a wait list number if you are not selected for any of them or offered a seat. As seats become available, schools will call in numerical order off that wait list. If you decide that your wait list number is too big, because we have some schools where 1,500 people will apply for 200 seats. So if you're at that and you looked at your wait list number is huge and you don't think you'll ever get it, you can apply for other schools. So you can go in during the late application period and then put some other school choices if that's what you choose to. Or you can stay on the wait list. Wait list offers will occur all the way to January of the following year for 8th grade through 12th grade, and then March 1st for elementary through 7th grade. So there is some time that you might get called, just not at the beginning.
Is there any way to apply for a Montessori school if you are mid-county?
So currently our only Montessori school is in South County. After the initial application period, if you're willing to provide your own transportation and there's no wait list, we might be able to make something happen. Some of our programs will open up countywide after the initial application period if there's still room. We can't offer transportation, but it might be a possibility. We would know more on March 21st.
My son will be going into VPK next year. And we are advised to look into magnet and gifted programs. Are there any Pinellas County, and what is the process? Then, if we get a VPK seat at a program, do we automatically get into kindergarten too?
No. So VPK, and this gets confusing because some of our VPK programs are located at 100% DAP schools. So for example, Jameson has a pre-K program. Lakeview Fundamental has a pre-K program. Pre-K falls under a different department, so it's a separate application. You would have to apply to get into the kindergarten program. It does not guarantee. You can start to look at VPK year if you really want to spread it out and take your time and do a lot of research. There's no reason why you can't start to look for that program for kindergarten. Centers for Gifted Studies do not start until first grade. So you would not be able to enter one of those Centers for Gifted Studies until first grade. So that kindergarten year, you can work on getting the gifted screening process taken care of, so you would be eligible for first grade.
If we're moving within the county during the summer, can we apply for a different zone where we plan to be?
Not until you have that address. So a lot of our application programs have the address is limited to that application area. So you can only apply for the programs that are either countywide. If it's a countywide program and you move, no problem. If it's an application area program and you move, you're not going to be able to apply outside of your application area based off of your current address.
I have a 5th grader at McMullen Booth. Are you saying I need to apply for Safety Harbor Middle School even though we are zoned for that middle school?
You don't have to. If you're zoned, you can attend. Then what I like a lot about the IB program or IB candidate schools is that you can't just have a certain set of kids who get that program. So those IB programs, as well as the candidate schools of McMullen Booth and Safety Harbor, every student at that school is going to get the IB program. So you do not have to apply if it's your zone school. You'll still benefit from that program.
How does a mandatory attendance program work?
I don't know. So I'm not sure how to interpret that question. What I can tell you, and just please, if you would clarify it in the chat so I could better answer. What I can tell you is in current school board policy, our programs require, well, we expect people to come to school, but if you have excessive absences, so if you're going to miss pretty big or significant time periods, you might be dismissed from magnet program. So there is a line in there that talks about excessive absences. So it might be a probation period. It could be potential all the way to dismissal depending on how it goes. So if that's what you mean by mandatory, with that. But if you would just clarify that question in the chat box, I'll be glad to answer it. I'm just having a hard time fully understanding what you mean by mandatory.
We'll get that up there if they put that in the chat. I have a sophomore in IB. How do I apply for my other daughter that is an incoming high school for the same IB program?
So you would, when it comes time to apply, you would make the application. You would apply for the same school and you would put it down as number 1. That'll give the sibling priority attached. So there's a time period between the application period and the acceptance period. So if you're making any of those claims or the school has entrance criteria, we can verify those priority claims. At that time, they'll look to make sure that the sibling is at the school. If it is, you'll get marked off for that sibling priority and you would go and attend. But you want to make sure, once again, because you would be claiming a priority, it has to be the number 1 choice. So make sure that that program or sister is in with IB is ranked or marked as number 1.
What is SAR?
So SAR is the special assignment request. So that is where you can choose to apply to a school that's other than your zone. So not magnet, not fundamental, but maybe it's a matter of your child is zoned for Ridgecrest Elementary and where you work is right near Midtown, not Midtown, bad example, that was 100% DAP. So maybe you work near Campbell Park. So I may choose to apply for a special assignment request or an SAR for my child to attend Campbell Park because it's right near where I work, so if something were to happen, I could get there more easily. So that SAR, special assignment request, would allow you to attend a non-zone school. One of the big differences is that you would be expected to provide your own transportation. So it allows families to have more school options than just the zone school.
Do you have to be zoned for St. Pete High to apply for the new 3DE program?
So 3DE program started off at Dunedin High and St. Pete High, and it's expanding into new schools next year. If you are not zoned for St. Pete High and you really wanted the program, you could apply for that SAR I just spoke about, the special assignment request. But Lakewood High School is going to be implementing 3DE, and there'll be a couple other high schools as well. So that program is currently expanding. It's a great program, but it's not an application program. And that's a really good question, because a lot of times people think that DAP is the only option, where we have a lot of other career academies that are not DAP. So Lakewood, for example, has an amazing program called ALMA, which is athletic management and trainer type things, and they get CPR certified. So that program is at Lakewood, but it's not a DAP. You can do an SAR and attend and do that program. Eastlake High is not the only high school that offers engineering. It's the only high school with a full engineering as the DAP program, but Countryside iSTEM has engineering. Osceola Fundamental has engineering. There's a lot of other high schools that have those programs. So don't really feel limited that if you don't get into the DAP program and you really wanted engineering, the county does offer a lot of other options. And if you check out our Career Technical Adult Education page, so pcsb.org/CTAE, you'll be able to see all the different options that we offer. And if it's not at your zone school, that's when the SAR would be an appropriate time to apply and be able to benefit from that program.
Okay, so we have a follow-up to that mandatory attendance question.
Perfect.
They asked, thought that that's what the application was called. She was actually asking about the SAR, which you just answered. And
Okay.
to be quite honest, with all the acronyms, I'm not surprised. So don't feel bad about that. But so we'll move on to another question. What is the difference for a full-time gifted program compared to a magnet and fundamental for middle school?
Good question. So one of the biggest differences, if you are in a Center for Gifted Studies, every teacher in that program is either gifted endorsed or is working their way to get that gifted endorsement. In middle school, there's a gifted elective, which is part of the program whether you're in the full-time gifted studies or at any other middle school. So every middle school in our county offers a gifted elective class. So whether you're in a different type of magnet, let's say you're at Eastlake Middle, let's say you're at in Clearwater Fundamental, you can still get that gifted elective program and get those gifted services through that. The difference between that Center for Gifted Studies is that every teacher is going to have those gifted strategies. So when you're in social studies or you're in math or you're in science, those teachers are going to be gifted endorsed so that they can really work on, excuse me, those different gifted standards in Florida.
All right. Follow up to your response on Waitlist.
Okay.
If you do not receive an offer for one of your 5 high schools, do you automatically go on a waitlist for your first choice, or could it be any of the 5 that you make the waitlist for?
Okay. So, and it's going to be a lot easier when we do the acceptance period, so I can actually have the screen up and show you. When it comes time for that acceptance period, if you apply for 5 programs, you're going to get a results window. And you might get an offer for like maybe your 3rd or 4th ranked program and maybe not your 1st, 2nd, 3rd. If you're being given an offer, it's going to say offer. If not, it's going to give you a wait list number. And one thing to know is if you accept one program, it takes you off all other wait lists. So let's say you get your number 4 offer, but you really want your first choice. You have the chance of not accepting that number 4 choice, and you'll stay on the wait list for your number 1. There's only one exception to the wait lists, and that has to do with services being offered. So you can accept another program and remain on a Center for Gifted Studies wait list, so that we're not limiting your access to gifted services. Any other program, if you accept one, you come off the other wait list. So you'll find out if you're on wait list for all 5. You'll find out if you're being offered 1 or 2 options, and then you'll have a choice to make. If you're being given an offer, but you really want to hold out for that other program, the school that you're offered, that offer will dissolve after the acceptance period ends. So if you really wanted to, excuse me, add on, you would have to go back in and apply during the late application period. But you will get to see what your wait list number at that time is, as well as what you're being offered.
My daughter is at McMullen Booth Elementary. Does that mean she is able to be an IB school through middle school and high school as well?
So middle school for sure. High school does have some requirements because of the rigorous nature of the course progression. So definitely apply to the middle school program, would get in. With high school, they're looking for certain FSA scores, as well as whether they had and passed Algebra 1. That Algebra 1 EOC, they'll need a passing score on that, because when they come in with the progression of the math classes that they'll have to take. And that's true with the ACE program as well. So there are no entrance criteria for the middle school programs. The high school ACE and IB do have a few, and then there's a rubric. So at that point in time when you're getting ready for high school, it's knowing ahead of time what that criteria is.
All right, we're down to our final 3 questions here. Going back to DAP fairs, can you please share a quick recap the purpose of these and how they are different than in-person tours and discovery nights?
Okay, I kind of look at the DAP fairs as kind of the trade show. So if you're brand new to this and you're just unaware of any of your options, I think the DAP fair, as overwhelming as it sometimes could be, is a great introduction to see everything that we have to offer. So you can see all the different programs and get an idea of what your different opportunities are. And then you can start to narrow, because they're all gonna have either a card or a one-pager that kind of describes their program, what they have to offer, as well as they'll have this flyers on their discovery night. So for an entry point of just kind of get a little bit to know, get a feel for some of the principles and kind of be like, oh, you know what, the dual language really sounds intriguing. Or maybe it's the conservatory program at Sandy Lane, or my child could be in a focus arts group. So you can really use that to kind of see all your options and start to narrow it down. The campus tour is going to be at the school. So you're going to get a better view of what the school has to offer. If you go during the day, you're going to get to see the teachers and how they're interacting with the students, and you can really get a feel for what the school has to offer and that climate and culture. The discovery nights are a great way if you work during the day. It's another great way to get more of an in-depth look. And when I say trade fair, you will see the different booths, you'll see different people at the booths. So you'll get some questions answered, but as far as like really going in depth and those more specific questions, that's kind of more during that discovery night. And that's where they're going to give you that overview. They're going to give you the course sequence. They're going to talk a little bit more about what the program has to offer. You're going to meet the teachers. You'll get a campus tour as well at that time. You're just not seeing it during the day when the students are there and getting to see those different interactions.
With SAR, do you have to give a reason why you want to apply to a school other than your zone school?
No.
You gave an example of work, but what if you just wanted that school because you heard about it, the school, and you really wanted to go to that school?
So there is no requirement. There's actually a state mandate that says if the zone school or whatever schools are designated, DAP, because it has a separate application period, those schools are not open for SARs or the special assignment requests, but any other school, and it could be other districts, not that I want you going anywhere other than Pinellas County schools, but it allows you to apply for any school, and if there's room, we can place you there. So I use work as an example, but it has to be no reason. If you heard the school's better, maybe they have an after-school enrichment club that you really like, there needs to be no reason provided to be able to apply for an SAR. We don't ask for a reason, we just ask which school would you like to go to. We will have one of these sessions for SARs. I think it's scheduled in March. The initial application period for special assignment requests for next year, so the 23-24 school year, will open up on April 1st. And much like right now, kind of a little bit ahead of time to get you thinking and kind of give you the information you might need to start your research. We'll provide that information closer to the actual period.
Final question. Is East Lake Middle School the only school that offers middle school engineering?
No.
Are these comparable programs in the are there comparable programs in the area?
So Azalea Middle School is our South County alternative. With that, they offer the same exact program. It goes through Project Lead the Way with Gateway to Technology is the middle school program name of that. So both schools offer comparable programs. Depending on the teachers at the school, sometimes there's a little bit more tweak. Like for example, one of the teachers at Azalea Middle School is really into drones. Eastlake has drones, but Azalea Middle School takes it a step above. And so what they offer and what they do at that program is a little bit different than Eastlake. So every time you have a teacher might have a specific passion or piece, there might be something different as far as the enrichments or those after-school clubs. But as far as the curriculum and the content, Azalea Middle School is the other engineering program in our county. I do want to thank you all for coming. Please know that I will go back and I review any of the questions in Facebook or YouTube and I will respond to your answers. If this gives you more questions, please just go to pcsb.org/DAP, or you can email us at dap@pcsb.org. Email your questions. Mandy Leathers and I are the two main district application program contacts, and we will be happy to talk to you about any of our programs, any questions you might have. We're here, and then the phone number, just one more time, is 727-588-6210. And thanks again for your generosity and giving me some time, and hopefully you have a great experience, and we hope to see you at our fairs and finding the best fit for your children next year. Thanks.
Be limitless with Pinellas County Schools. To discover more about our magnet programs and events, go to pcsb.org/DAP.